Welcome to this explainer. We're about to completely shatter everything you thought you knew about studying and memory. If you've ever felt super frustrated trying to cram information into your brain, or if you feel like your memory just completely bails on you when you need it most, well, you are definitely in the right place. Today, we're exploring a radically different approach to learning, and we're drawing this directly from Osho's profound philosophy on how the mind actually absorbs knowledge. Okay, let's dive right into this powerful idea. The quote here says, "People say our memory is weak, but this is untrue." And according to our source material, the whole idea that you just have a bad memory is a complete myth. Nobody's memory is inherently weak. It's actually a natural gift. What's weak is our art of being present. Just think about a time you fell in love or experienced a moment of just pure, intense joy. You never have to try to remember those moments, right? They stay alive for years simply because you were completely, totally present. You just aren't fully present when you learn.
Moving on to Section 1. Memory is a fragrance, not a warehouse. The biggest mistake we make is treating learning like this giant hoarding process. We act like the brain is a warehouse, just some mechanical recording machine that we need to stuff with data. But hoarding facts actually dulls the intellect. The reality, memory is the fragrance of consciousness. It's an event of the heart, not just the brain. When you read while you're deeply inwardly awake, memory happens completely naturally, literally spreading just like a fragrance in a room. But how do we actually wake up inwardly? Well, it starts with this concept called sakshi, or witnessing. Before you even open a book, you've got to become a witness to your own internal noise. Just close your eyes for a second, watch your breath, and observe the waves rising and falling inside you. The real secret here is not to fight or suppress your thoughts. Just watch them. Exactly the same way the vast sky watches the clouds pass by. Once that witnessing settles in, then you read, and suddenly words stop being just text on a page. They become actual experiences. Which brings us to Section 2, the right preparation for reading.
Reading is absolutely not a mechanical act. It is a total transformation of your state of being. You see, you might open a book and stare at the words, but inside, you've got 1,000 voices talking all at once. If your physical body is parked in a chair, but your mind is wandering around the grocery store, the words are only passing through your eyes. They never reach your heart. And if they don't reach your heart, they're never going to become a lasting memory. So it's absolutely crucial that your physical body is involved in this process. Don't treat your body like an enemy when you study. A balanced, relaxed body with a straight spine directly leads to a balanced, awake mind. Take some deep breaths. Relax any stiffness. If your body is rigid and tired, your mind is going to be rigid and sleepy too. When the body is awake, the mind is awake. Now look at this. There is a massive difference between simply gathering data and actually developing intelligence. Information is like a giant pile of food you just accumulate. Intellect, on the other hand, is like a sharp knife that cuts right through it. You can gather as much food, as much information, notes and rote facts as you want, but if your knife is completely blunt, you are not going to be able to cut through any of it. We call this knife buddhi, or intellect. And true intellect isn't about your capacity to memorize facts or just being clever. Cleverness is just logic. Intellect is the sharpness of vision and deep insight. And here's the real secret. Intellect doesn't grow by rote memorization. It's an insight that awakens only when you are perfectly silent. Intellect and restlessness? Yeah, they literally cannot coexist. Let's transition into Section 3, the magic of slowness. The modern mind is literally always in a massive hurry. But here's the thing, in a hurry, memory cannot be formed. Only shallow information passes through. When you read slowly, you actually start to notice the empty space between the words. And it's exactly in that empty space where true understanding lands. When understanding lands, memory is born. So please, don't just drag your eyes across the page. Allow each sentence to really echo within you. Pause and taste its meaning. If there's no taste, do not move forward. Now, as you read slowly, questions are naturally gonna arise. And this is a wonderful thing. A question is a seed, and the answer is the flower. But don't be in such a rush to find the answer. People always want quick answers, and by doing that, they literally kill the question. A dead answer only feeds the ego. Keep your questions alive. Let them wander inside you. Give them time. Give them patience. A living question is what truly sharpens your intellect. All right, moving to Section 4, the illusion of forced concentration. How long should I study? Man, people ask this question all the time.
But looking at our sources, this is entirely the wrong question to ask. Measuring your learning by the clock? That completely misses the point. Here is the question you should be asking. With what quality should I study? Because quantity doesn't matter. Intensity is what matters. 5 minutes of absolute total presence is infinitely more fruitful than a whole hour of sitting there in absence, daydreaming about something else entirely. We often talk about concentration as if it's this violent thing you have to force on yourself, right? Tying the mind down with strict rules. But tying the mind down goes completely against nature. It just creates rebellion and inner struggle. And that struggle drains the exact energy you need to learn. Totality, on the other hand, is a natural presence. When you're totally immersed, your body, mind, and consciousness all flow in one frictionless direction. You save all that energy, and it turns directly into effortless memory. Now, of course, your mind is going to wander. A wandering mind is just nature. The actual problem isn't the wandering itself. The problem is that you wander along with it. If your focus breaks, don't get frustrated. Frustration is just a second mistake. Simply observe the break, watch it happen, and bring yourself back to the center. If it breaks 1,000 times, just peacefully return 1,000 times. That very act of returning is exactly what strengthens your intellect. And this brings us to our final section, Section 5, From Rote to True Experience. Humanity has completely turned reading into this mechanical, robotic process of repeating something over and over again. We call this rote learning. It creates immense tension and it just floats on the very surface of your mind, ready to be totally washed away by the first wave of stress. It might help you pass an exam, but it will fail you in life. Experiential learning, however, means feeling a concept so deeply that it absorbs right into your bones. It builds real bridges between scattered concepts and stays with you forever. So here is a direct roadmap for experiential learning broken down into 3 stages. First up, imagination. Don't just read words, visualize the text. Add sensory colors, smells, and sounds so your whole brain gets involved. Second, silence. Don't just immediately flip to the next page. Pause. Let the idea ripple through you like a stone dropped in a calm pond. If you throw another stone too quickly, you ruin the ripples of the first one. And third, expression. Speak or write what you've learned in your own words. Expression, not repetition, is what deepens the roots of memory. And as you do this, you absolutely have to allow yourself to make mistakes. A massive secret to expanding your intellect is giving yourself permission to be wrong. Fear of making a mistake literally shrinks the intellect. If you only memorize the correct answers, your intellect goes straight to sleep. But taking the freedom to arrive at wrong conclusions, to genuinely try and fail, that keeps your mind wildly active and incredibly free. Which brings us to this profound truth. Joy is the gateway to memory. The absolute biggest enemies of learning are the fear of exams, the fear of failure, and the fear of comparison. Fear makes the mind shrink, and nothing can stay in a shrunken mind. So leave the future, leave the exam and the results completely outside the door when you study. Intellect only breathes in the present moment. Whatever is done in joy leaves an indelible, unerasable mark inside you. I want you to really keep this quote in mind. Therefore, remain a disciple. An open mind alone can remember. A closed mind only defends. Because when you assume you already know everything, your learning stops instantly, and your memory begins to dry up. Always look at even familiar subjects with fresh, totally curious eyes. The familiar is actually the most dangerous thing because we stop paying attention to it. Being a lifelong learner, a true disciple, is what keeps your mind open and your intellect completely vibrant. I'm going to leave you with this final provocative thought for this explainer. When you sit down to learn, ask yourself, are you just trying to memorize this or are you ready to live it? Because when knowledge stops being just words on a page and becomes a living, breathing part of how you actually experience the world, you never ever have to try to remember it again. Think about that the next time you open a book. Thank you so much for joining me, and I really hope this transforms the way you learn.